Nice to see everyone. Nice to see you. Nice to see some friendly faces and some people I don't know, of course. Welcome, everybody. We'll get started in a second. We'll give everybody one more minute to join, and we're really happy you could be here. And as we're waiting, if you could go ahead and put your name in the chat, where you're calling in from, anything about your organization, that would be fantastic. And we know you're calling in from all over the world. So welcome to all of you. Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Does that sound okay, Madeline and Nina? So hello, everybody. Welcome to this applicant webinar for the Global eSTEM Awards. My name is Judy Browse. I'm the Executive Director of the North American Association for Environmental Education. And this is all about the eSTEM Award opportunities for all of you. And we're so happy you could be on this webinar. We're really excited because this is a wonderful opportunity, and we know that many of you need support for the good work that you are doing. So this is a really wonderful opportunity for you to showcase what you are doing in eSTEM and to also advance that work and support each other. So the awardees will be a cohort. There will be professional development, and you'll get a chance to hear about all of the opportunities in just a minute. And we're really excited about our partnership with Pratt and Whitney to do this. We'll talk more about that. This is our team. I found a photo of me from 100 years ago, so in China with a panda. But I want to just say that Nina and Madeline, who are the leads on this program, are absolutely amazing, and you'll get a chance to hear from both of them. And Nina, as you can see, is the Director of International and Leadership Programs, and Madeline is our International Programs Specialist. Couldn't have two better colleagues, and you'll hear from both of them. So what we're going to do today is say just a few words about NAAE and Pratt and Whitney. We have Maddie here from Pratt and Whitney. We're excited about that. And then you'll hear all about what the eSTEM Awards are, more about the application criteria, overall guidance, how to fill out the online application via Submittable, which is the platform that we use, additional resources that we have, and then we're here to answer any questions that you have. Of course, all the really hard ones should go to Madeline and Nina. So that's what we're hoping to do today. And just a few housekeeping tips and tricks here, because everybody is, we can see everybody and your video is on, and if you want to put it on, but please type questions in the chat and stay muted when you're not speaking. And we're always happy to repeat what we just said or explain it. We know that English might not be everybody's first or second language. You can use live captioning. You can just click on the CC on your toolbar, and the webinar will be recorded and shared. So if you miss a few things, you'll get a chance to listen to it if you need it. And this is what your toolbar should look like. You can see the CC. You can click on that. And there are 31 language opportunities that you can check. And then the chat, if you hit on the chat, and many of you have already found the chat and have used Zoom before, just to let us know what you're thinking, any ideas. We're always interested in any resources and ideas that you have, as well as questions. So just a little bit about who we are before we get into the nitty gritty. I'll start off talking about NAAE. We are the professional association. We like to say we're the champion and the backbone organization to support the field of environmental education. And we work with educators and partners and policymakers around the world to strengthen environmental education. That's what we are all about. And our mission is using the power of education to advance environmental literacy and civic engagement to create a more equitable and sustainable future. So that's what we're all about. And if you go to NAAEE.org, you can find out so much more about our organization. And during the course of applying for this award program, you'll find out more about NAAEE. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce our colleague, Maddie from Pratt& and Whitney. And we cannot thank Pratt& and Whitney enough for the work that they are doing to advance sustainability, to support eSTEM, to help provide support to build a green and blue workforce for the future. And Maddie is absolutely fantastic. So Maddie, I'm going to turn it over to you to say a few words from Pratt& and Whitney.
Thank you, Judy. And hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Apologies for any background noise. I am in a shared office today on site at our site in Montreal. I'm here to celebrate our centennial. So Pratt& and Whitney is celebrating 100 years of powering the future this year, and just wanted to introduce a little bit about our work. So by the numbers, we are celebrating, like I said, 100 years of innovation. We have over 90,000 engines in service. And every second, a Pratt& and Whitney powered aircraft takes off or lands somewhere in the world. So truly are global in scope. And we have over 45,000 employees globally across those 40 different countries. So chances are we're flying from anywhere you are, calling in from today. And I represent our corporate social responsibility team. And so our work is how do we invest in all of the communities where we live and work to ensure that we're building a more resilient future, and building the talent pipeline who's going to solve all of these issues going forward when we're thinking about things like energy efficiency, and sustainable aviation fuels and things like that. So we're thrilled to have you all on the call today and know that on the Pratt& and Whitney side, we're here to answer any questions, provide any input, and be a resource for you all. So thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you, Maddie. It's so great to see you, and thanks again for the support. We're only 54 years old, so we have a ways to go to hit your 100 mark. And it is nice to see so many people filling out where you're calling in from in the chat, and that we have some former winners of this program, Stella and others. So thanks again for being here. I'm now going to turn it over to Nina, who's going to take us on the journey to find out more about these awards and how you can apply and actually be a winner. So Nina, do you want to take it? I'll stop sharing and you can take it over.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm going to do a quick screen switcheroo here. All right. Well, thank you so much, Judy, and thank you, Maddie, also for joining us. I just want to echo Judy's words that it's been such a pleasure to collaborate with Pratt & Whitney and with all of our awardees, past and present, on this program. It's just really a joy to be part of this team and part of this program. So now we're going to take a quick dive into the eSTEM Awards. I think, as Judy mentioned, my name is Nina Hamilton. I'm our Director of International and Leadership Programs at NAAEE. I'm here along with Madeline to answer any questions that you'll have about this program, whether it's during this hour or over email. We will share our contact information, but please do put any questions in the chat throughout, and we're going to stop and try to get to them as we go. So first off, I wanted to share what we mean by eSTEM. And this definition is in our request for proposals. I believe it's on the website. So we do try to make this as visible as possible. So the eSTEM Awards support programs that engage students in meaningful STEM, so science, technology, engineering, and math, learning experiences through environmental problem solving. So eSTEM is all about promoting interdisciplinary learning and empowering students to help find solutions to our complex real-world environmental issues that we're all facing today. We have a few different award pools. We have the innovation grants that support organizations in implementing new eSTEM programming or to enhance an existing program with up to 15,000 US dollars. We have the excellent prizes that recognize organizations that have already demonstrated some excellence in eSTEM through positive outcomes from their past or their ongoing programming. And the excellent prizes go up to $50,000. And we'll get into this in the budget section, but if we have one application for all of these pools. So what you submit one application, you will be considered for all three of these. For the first round, we ask you to submit a budget up to $15,000. So for the innovation grants. And if you are selected for our finalist round, we will request a budget for $50,000 if you want to be considered for the excellent prize. So I just want to say that here because that question came in through the Zoom registration. So you will be considered for both. And if you make it into the finalist round, we will request a second budget up to $50,000. And then our next generation transportation grant will be awarded to one organization whose projects focus on next generation aviation technology or other transportation issues. And so all of these awards are to support proposed work for the upcoming year, and this should include new initiatives or expansions or some kind of enhancement of your ongoing programming. And who is eligible? So nonprofit organizations are eligible to apply. You do not have to be a 501c3 based in the US. If you are outside of the US, you have to have, we look for you to have the equivalent of whatever that is in your country. So if you are based in the US, that would be a 501c3. You are welcome to apply from anywhere in the world except any countries that are currently subject to US sanctions or other restrictions. We're happy to answer questions and share with you any links to find out if you are if your country might be on the sanction list. You must have an active bank account that can receive electronic funds in USD. This is just so that you can actually receive the grant. Programs must work with students ages 11 to 22. You can be working with students anywhere within that age range. It does not have to be the full range, but that is the target age range for this grant opportunity. And we'll be asking you to implement and complete your projects between December 2025 and October of next year. So completing whatever activities you are proposing in your submission. And at this time, we can only accept submissions in English. But we are not assessing your English ability, I will say. We're looking for, the content and are you addressing all of the elements that we're looking for in the call for proposals? But if English is not your second language, we really don't want you to worry about that. And so what are we looking for in your submissions? In addition to the eligibility criteria that I just mentioned, we have a few other elements. So your proposed activities must engage students in one or more STEM topics. There must be an action component, so you must be empowering students to take action. And that is using what they are learning through the eSTEM education programming to take action. It must include real-world, student-directed environmental problem solving. And for the action piece, you must be engaging students to take action in one of our priority areas. And those are conservation, stewardship, and solutions, energy efficiency, and next generation transportation. And in our online request for proposals, we go into this in a lot more detail of what we're looking for. So please make sure that you take a look at this. It's available on our website. We'll be sharing it out over email as well. But all of the important information is in there. So what else are we looking for? You must also, we also want you to explain how your program promotes creative solutions and teamwork among students. We see that this is a really important component of eSTEM education. We're looking for projects that are improving STEM learning and environmental literacy, and that perhaps ideally you have a way to measure that as well through your program. and that you're emphasizing skills needed to pursue environmental careers. So for this last one, we do have a resource that we'll share around on the Brookings Institution's Green New Learning Agenda. It's got a great list of skills for environmental careers. You do not have to address all of them, but if you're looking for a source of inspiration, it's a really great resource. We're also looking for programs that ideally are open to all kinds of students. We think this is really important for building, for boosting our collective impact as a field. So we're looking for programs that are open to students of all backgrounds, and also programs that are leveraging partnerships to help boost your program's impact. So that could be with other organizations, schools, government agencies, other groups, and there is a place in the application to mention your partnerships. So a quick look at our timeline for the overall one application that you submit to be considered for all 3 funding pools is due July 2nd at 11:59 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. Please make sure to check what that is in your local time zone. All submissions must be sent in through our online application on Submittable. If we have time, we'll near the end, we'll do a quick run through of Submittable if it helps you to see the application. And we're planning to notify everyone whether or not you receive the award by October. And then the grant period begins in December. So again, I really encourage you to take a look at our request for proposals that outlines all of this. It also outlines all of our evaluation criteria. Madeline will go into the application in a little bit more detail after I'm done here. But I can't emphasize this enough. This should be your guide that we recommend that you keep going back to, because it is a really valuable document. All right, so I'm going to pause here for a couple questions. I see we've got a few in the chat. Okay, so Stella, your organization was one of the winners in 2024. Are you eligible to apply? So for now, the ESTEM Awards, the current round is only open to new organizations. So current awardees and previous awardees are not eligible, unfortunately. What is the timeline for when you might be invited? Oh, sorry, Stella, did you have a question? No. What is the timeline for when you might be invited to revise your project submission? Is that before October? Yes, it would be before October. Madeline, what is the timing on that?
We'll likely ask folks, I would say probably around August maybe, for an updated budget.
Great. Yes. And then that is our tentative timeline. Well,
And Nina,
oh,
yeah,
go ahead.
Josh asked about, do you see Josh's question about many interpretations of STEM? Does there need to be a specific 21st
Oh, sorry, I missed
technology component?
Josh's.
Just want to make sure you didn't miss that one.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I did miss that. Okay, so Josh asked, at some point, can you speak more to your definition of STEM? There are many interpretations. Specifically, must there be a 21st century technology component? We try to keep our definition pretty open, specifically to that definition that we had just shared, because we do want to make this open to as many different approaches to eSTEM as possible. And so we do mention, you know, the skills for environmental careers, and that aligns with the 21st century learning. But Judy, do you have anything to add on that?
No, I think it's just trying to make sure that what you're applying for matches how this broad definition of STEM and the idea of science, technology, engineering, and math linked to the environment makes sense. So not everything is going to hit every single aspect of STEM, of course. If you can make the case, that's the best.
Yeah, exactly. And I will also emphasize this taking action piece. We really do look for that in the submission. So if you're aligning with the eSTEM definition and these components that we have here, then yeah, you're aligning with our very broad definition of eSTEM. Yeah, great question. Let's see. Will programs that engage both environmental educators and students be eligible to apply? Great question. Yes, we do have grantees that are awardees that are working with students and ones that are working with educators. We do want to be able to see through your programming the impact that it's going to have on students. So if you can make that clear connection of this is what our programming is doing with educators and this is how it will translate to tangible outcomes, educational outcomes with students as well, and including that taking action piece, then yes. How many awards are available in each category? So we do not have a specific number of awards available in each category. It depends each year on the submissions that we're receiving and the funding that we have available. How much time will we have for the updated budget? It will be several weeks. I think for the finalists, you'll have several weeks to fill out. There will be a little bit of additional information in there. Can you please speak again about applying for all three and then being considered for the Excellence Award? Yes, so we have one application form that makes you eligible or makes you considered for all three funding pools. And so I just mentioned the second budget because we often get this question in the application form, in the initial application form, we ask you to submit a budget up to 15,000, not over 15,000. And so we often get the question, well, if I want to be considered for the Excellence Prize, why can't I submit for up to 50? So we ask you to start with the 15,000 and then we ask all of our finalists, so a much smaller pool of the broader applicant pool that we receive, to submit that 50,000. So you will be considered for the Excellence Prize, even if your initial budget is only the 15,000. Can one part of the project be building or renovating conservation learning center? That's a good question. Sadisha, I would suggest sending us an email with a little bit of additional context and we'll be happy to help with that. I think it will depend on the broader context of the project. We'll talk about the budget. So guidelines around indirect cost, staffing, we'll get to that with the application form. Our organization has a different public name than the one on the registration document. It does not, I don't believe that matters, whichever one you prefer to submit with. And then, yeah, we verify your nonprofit status regardless. So it should be fine either way. All right. Okay. I think I've gotten everything. So with that, and please do keep the questions coming. With that, we're going to get into the application. So I'm going to turn it over to Madeline.
Awesome. Thank you, Nina. And again, my name is Madeline, and I work with Nina at NAAAE, and especially on the eSTEM Awards. And I'm just going to talk through some of our application criteria in more detail. I want to note that I'm only going to highlight a few of the key criteria, but I recommend that you read through the RFP through any of the ones that I don't cover today. So we can go to the next slide. Yeah, so just like Nina mentioned, we just talked about this. There are these 3 award pools, and we only have 1 application, and that 1 application you'll be considered for all 3 award pools. Our reviewers provide us recommendations as they review your application for which award pool is most appropriate for your proposal. And we'll talk a little bit more about this in the next few slides about what might make you a stronger and more competitive candidate for the Excellence Prize, for example. So these are the scoring criteria that our reviewers will use, and these align directly with the application questions that you'll see in the online application and in the RFP. And each criteria has points allocated to it. You'll see that some do have more weight than others. I will say all are important to paint the full picture of your program. And so as you are drafting your application, you can consider the weight of each. And you'll notice also in the application that each section that aligns with these criteria may have a different word count, for example, for how much detail you can include. Go to the next. Yeah, so we'll cover these 3 criteria that are in green here on the webinar since these have the highest points. But if you do have any questions about the others, feel free to ask in the chat or you can email us. And again, all of this information is included in the RFP. So the first criteria we'll go through is the project description. This is also the first question on the application, and it's the longest section included in the application. And so this is where we want you to describe your proposed objectives and activities. So in this section, we want you to include how your project addresses at least one STEM discipline, how it aligns with at least one of our 3 key priority areas, how your proposed project will engage students in that real-world, student-directed environmental problem solving, how your project will promote creative solutions, teamwork, STEM and environmental literacy, as well as green skills that are geared towards careers that help solve environmental issues. And so basically, this section should address all of the key elements that we described earlier, kind of giving us like a well-rounded view of what your project really is, what the activities that you'll include will be, and your objectives for the project. So along with your project description, you have the option to upload a letter of commitment from a partner, donor, or other individual organization, or a letter of support from someone who can attest to your organization's past work or expertise related to eSTEM. This could include any major partners that you plan to work with on your project. You can upload up to 3 letters from organizations and make sure that the letter describes the role that the organization will play or their relationship to you. There are more details about what to include in the letter in the online application. For example, you'll need to include contact information from who's ever writing the letter, a signature, etc. So definitely look at the application before you request a letter from someone. And I want to note these are optional. If you don't have a letter of support, that's fine. But they are highly recommended. And like we said, we do look for organizations that have a partner as part of their project. So this would be a really great way to make yourself a competitive candidate for the Excellence Prize or for any of the awards. We can go to the next slide. So the second criteria I want to talk through today is organizational capacity. This section of the application is where reviewers look closely at your past eSTEM programming experience or other similar relevant experience. So here we encourage you to detail any experience you have administering a similar program, and especially if you have any experience with eSTEM programming, include that. So some of the things you might consider including are your past program audiences, any activities that your audience was engaged in, the outcomes or impacts of those activities. If you demonstrated any excellence in eSTEM programming in the past, again, this is where you can include that to really make you a competitive candidate for the Excellence Prize. And we also like to include brief biographies of the proposed project managers, just so we can kind of understand who's engaging with the project and learn a little bit more about your team. Okay, so the final criteria I'll just talk through today is our timeline and budget. I know we had a few questions about this already. So first, I want to point out where you'll download this. So in the application, you'll see in this red box here, there's going to be a hyperlink to our template for our timeline and budget Excel spreadsheet. So you'll click that link, it will take you to Dropbox, and you'll download the document from there. If you get a note that you have to sign into Dropbox, you don't have to sign in. There's a little, like, at the very bottom, you'll see a little thing that says continue without signing in. It's a little hidden, but just let us know if you have any trouble accessing this document. And I also want to note the file has 3 tabs. So it has an instructions tab, a timeline tab, and a budget tab. And you can look through all of those once you download it. We can go to the next one. So in the timeline tab, we do include like a little one-line example of how you'll fill this out. Basically, you'll put a key activity in the leftmost column, and then you'll kind of mark which months of the year that key activity will take place. And again, it'll be through December, from December through October 2026. So December 2025 to October 2026. And you'll include all the activities that you mentioned in your project description. Go to the next one. So yeah, again, we ask that you focus on some major events, milestones, or projects related to your project. You don't need to include every small activity, but include enough details that we can see how the activities that you mention in your timeline align with what you describe in your project description. And all, like I said, all activities must take place during the grant period. And you can add as many rows as you need. We don't have any limitations there. Okay, and then for the budget, hold on, my cat is trying to be a part of this meeting. So I'll move him there. For the budget, just like the timeline, we have this one-line example where you can see we include an item, the amount that it would cost, and if you have any matching funds or in-kind support, and then a description of the item that kind of relates it back to what you have in your actual project description. And let's see. Remember that, like Nina mentioned, the budget you request for the eSIM award should be up to 15,000 USD. Again, if you are asked to, if you do move on to the next round, we will ask you to provide a budget up to 50,000. But for now, just keep it 15,000 USD or under. Include enough detail for us to understand why the expense is necessary in the little rightmost description box. And then you can include any matching funds from a partner organization, for example, or if you have in-kind support, such as like volunteers or donated spaces or equipment, things like that, you can just give us an estimated monetary value of that in the matching funds column. Make sure that you align it with the project description. We've seen some where it's like the budget has some expenses that really aren't described in the project description, and that is confusing to reviewers. So this is why I keep mentioning it, is that it's really important for us to really understand how each expense relates back to your proposed project. Everything should be in USD. It's hard for reviewers to know other currencies out there. That's the only reason for that. And then again, you can add as many rows as you need to this document. Okay, and then just some overall advice here. Everything is probably things I've already said before, so a little bit of repetition here, but make sure that you clearly align all parts of your application, your objectives, your activities, your audience, and your budget, all back to the proposed project in your project description. Make sure you explicitly include all required eSTEM elements. Our strongest awardees, I guess, are folks who can really tell us how they're using STEM and environmental literacy, and how they address one of the 3 key topics very clearly. Include as much detail as possible. You can use the word count as a guide. Like I mentioned, the project description is up to 800 words, so we want to see some more detail in that section than in other sections. And please read through the RFP in detail, and go back to it as you draft your application. The RFP includes the exact criteria that our reviewers will use to score your application. So you can use that as a guide or a checklist for you. I think that's all I have for you all. I'm sure we have some more questions here.
Yes, thank you, Madeline. We do have some good questions in the chat. So just for everyone, in case you haven't been following the chat, so someone asked, we have a collaborative team from different programs at our university. Is there a place to put in team members' information and qualifications? The best place for that is the organizational capacity question. In that question, just make sure that you include both information about your team members and their qualifications, a little bit about the key team members, as well as your team's overall experience with overall relevant experience with STEM or eSTEM programming. And as Madeline mentioned, that field will be looking at for the Excellence Prize and to gauge your organization's eligibility for the Excellence Prize. All right, Sophia, our programs run with the school year, September to June, and continue year after year. Is it reasonable to apply, recognizing that funds will support two different cohorts of students, one from December to June and the other from September to October? Yes, that's completely fine. You can be working with different sets of students, whether that's because of different school years or different communities, that is completely fine. The scope of a $15,000 project can be far different from the scope of a $50,000 project. Do you have advice for how to scale down for the first round of review? Yes, this is a great question. And our hope is that there's space, or that you can find space within the narrative to explain, not in detail, but to give our reviewers a sense of what would be possible with the Excellence Prize. So for the first round, our reviewers will be looking for cohesion between what you're describing, your proposed activities, your proposed project, and your budget. And again, that proposed project, it can be completely new, or it could be your existing programming, but however you would expand on it with additional funding. So we are going to be looking to make sure that those align, that you're not promising a ton with a very small budget. But you can definitely mention if the scope is very different, what you would do. Please do mention what $50,000 what would be possible with the $50,000 with that Excellence Prize. And you will have a chance in the finalist round. If you get to the finalist round, you'll have a chance to explain that in a little bit more detail. But you're welcome to mention that as well in this round. For matching funds, can it be another grant under review? Yes, that's fine. Please specify that. You can include in the budget line just to say this amount is still under review. And letters of support, they can be in another language, and we do ask you to include a translation if possible, and ideally within the same document if you can, but please email us if you have run into any issues with that. Okay, we have multiple programs embedded in schools. Some of them are STEM focused, others are more action focused. Must we ensure that schools access both to qualify for this funding? That is a good question. We are looking for there to be a connection between the eSTEM programming and students taking action. So we are looking for that connection within the same group participants, the same students, because those are the kinds of outcomes that we're looking for. So if those are separated, it might be difficult to make that connection between eSTEM and action. But I hope that helps. But if you have any further questions on that, feel free to reach out over email and we're happy to help. All right, I think that is all of the questions for now in the chat. Please feel free to share any others. How are we on timing? Yeah, Madeline, maybe we should just do a quick walk through submittable. I think we've got time, right? We don't have a whole lot left.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, great. So we won't dive too deep into submittable, but we'll just do a quick screen share of the application just so that you can see where things are, since we've got the time. So I'm going to stop sharing and hand that back over to Madeline.
Okay, so you should see, I just shared my screen is our homepage for the Global eSTEM Awards here. And so we have the request for proposals here if you want to look for that. And then you'll click apply here when you're ready to start your application. So this takes you into Submittable. You will have to make an account, or you can also sign up with your Google account. And they'll have a little button here that you'll say submit just to start the application. But we have our eligibility here at the top that you'll have to just agree that you are eligible to apply. And then we start some information about you and your organization. And that's when our actual questions start. So we have our project description. You'll see at the bottom right here for every written response question, there's the max word count that you can include. You can also expand the boxes if you want as you write your application. We have our partner letters of support, and this is some of what we ask you to include in the partner letter of support. So just some contact information, for example, and you can upload up to 3 here. You'll see we also have acceptable file types down here. Let me just see if there's anything else that I want to point out. For our timeline and budget, that link I was talking about is here. So under timeline and budget, you'll have a hyperlink that you can click here. And that brings you to Dropbox, where you can download this document in the upper right corner. And then importantly, you can save your draft of your application. You don't have to write and submit it all in one go. You can come back to it in Submittable. When you are ready to submit, it's down here. And if you submit and you want to go back in before before our due date, we can open it back up for you. Just send us an email and let us know. I guess any questions in the chat, Nina, while I'm in the application here?
Nothing about the application form specifically. Let's see. So we do have a question for the organization. Should I fill out university name or specific department? So this is probably more applicable to universities or to very large organizations. If there's a chance that another department within your university might apply, it is helpful for you to include your department as well, or if you can squeeze in both somehow, that is helpful for us just to keep the submission separate. But if you run into any issues with that, just let us know. And for evaluation, can we budget for a graduate student to conduct evaluation? How much % is allowed or recommended? Great question. Yes, that is definitely allowed. We don't have a limit in terms of evaluation budget or overhead or any of those components. So if we see any possible issues with the budget, we collaborate on that once you're awarded, but we do try to keep the budgets to what you'll propose, based on your organization's needs. So but we do not have any restrictions on that. All right, so I'm going to take this back. And we just have a couple resources that we wanted to share with you. So if you're familiar with EEPro, or if you're not, we do have an eSTEM education group on EEPro. EEPro, I like to call is like our LinkedIn for environmental educators. There's tons of resources on there. You can connect with other educators, other environmental education professionals. It is free and extremely easy to join. And once you're in there, you can browse the different groups and you can find our eSTEM education group. And it's a great way to just see specific resources on eSTEM to engage with other professionals in eSTEM education. And we'll share all of these links in the follow-up email with the recording and all of these resources. And so these are some of these resources that we've mentioned. So we've got the RFP, the New Green Learning Agenda, which can help you just figure out, alignment with some of those key priorities we mentioned earlier. We'll include a link to view our past recipients so you can get an idea of really the wide breadth of projects that we've supported in the past. And we do have an FAQ on our website as well for some other frequently asked questions. And with that, we will stick around a few more minutes for any questions, but just can't thank you enough for joining us. Thank you for your interest in this opportunity. We're so excited to be supporting organizations each year through this program. And we really can't wait to see your submissions. So please feel free to reach out to us at this email with any questions. And thank you again for joining. All right, and if there aren't any other questions, I'm gonna close it out. And if you had specific questions, more specific to your project, please email us and we're happy to help. All right, bye everyone. Let's save our chat here.